Host your own First Tech Challenge Camp, presented at First Championship World Competition in Detroit, Michigan, 2018.
Let's change the world. This presentation will focus on the story of how the FTC Team 7043 Golden Gears have hosted a wildly successful week-long, full-day First FTC Camp geared at rookie team members in the summers of 2016 and 2017. They have shared all their resources so other teams can also host camps and workshops. The Golden Gears want your team to host summer camps and workshops just like this to promote STEM first values and keep teams sustainable.
At our camp, our campers built, modified, and programmed a standard FTC pushbot, competed in a small-scale robot game for a sizable audience, produced an engineering notebook, gave presentations to judges, and learned about all the soft skills needed to be a successful team, all in 5 days. This presentation will focus on how to structure and organize a camp, how to adapt this content for other formats such as weekend workshops and smaller events, how to use all the planning documents, presentations, and resources available, and tips and suggestions on how to implement these effectively, so you don't need to take notes today. Please note, the format of this camp is adaptable and scalable. You can adapt this content to put on shorter workshops focused on specific subjects, such as build, programming, engineering notebook, and so forth. It can be scaled up or down depending on the experience level of your participants. You can also adapt this content to spread out over all your practices you have during the season. This is what we have available for you online: a copy of this presentation, a comprehensive guide to how we ran our camp, examples of our camp schedule formats, our camp presentation files, which include 15-minute beginner presentations, expanded, more in-depth presentations from our district's 2017 FTC kickoff hosted by our high school team, the FRC 2834 Bionic Blackhawks. We have instruction manuals for building K9 and full-scale pushbot robots, links to programming and resources and code, the materials to run your choice of 2 different FTC-style robot games that are scaled for a week-long summer camp, ready-to-use forms for kids to fill out for their camp engineering notebook, team-building activities adapted for all kinds of situations, presentation materials to use to solicit sponsorship and grants for parts and tools you'll need for your camp. The possibilities are endless. It's not just for summer camp. You could easily take the resources we provide you and break it into chunks and host it many different ways. You could break it down to a 3-hour workshop. You host your own season kickoff with many events, or host a free clinic in your area. You can really do almost anything you want with this program. A little background on the hosts of this camp, the FTC Team 7043 Golden Gears. The Golden Gears have had 3 seasons of FTC as of 2018. They started as one of the youngest teams to compete in FTC with only 6th and 7th graders in the fall of 2015. They've advanced to states 3 times and super regionals once. The Golden Gears are known for their outstanding outreach efforts to promote FIRST, robotics, and STEM, and typically reach thousands of people each year. They have done over 60 outreaches in 3 years and are committed to providing opportunities not only for kids to be exposed to robotics, but also learn how to mentor other kids. Golden Gears are part of Bloomfield Hills School's robotics. We value and promote a culture of support and encouragement, and help each other do our best through mentored competency paths and creating leadership opportunities for every team member. Through our outreach and partnership, our school district presently has 45 teams, 22 FLL Junior, 14 FLL, 8 FTC, 1 FRC, the 2834 Bionic Blackhawks, for a total of 330 students across all programs. FTC is a little bit different in Michigan. The robotics program in our district, Bloomfield Hills Schools, is the largest in Michigan and has 8 FTC teams in 2018. 3 of those teams advanced to super regionals this year, and 1 of them advanced all the way to worlds. In Michigan, FTC teams are all 6th to 8th graders. In the rest of the United States and the world, while 7th and 8th graders can compete, FTC teams are usually high school teams.
At the end of our first season, we held a brainstorming section where we came up with the idea to run an FTC camp that summer so that rookies could have a head start at the beginning of of the
In the
year.
past, we had an FLL camp, which was ran by our high school team. However, we didn't have anything for FTC. I noticed a lot of rookie teams struggling, so what we wanted to do was create an experience similar to the FLL camp, but for FTC.
We wanted to cover many different topics in our FTC camp since there are many different topics in FTC. We didn't want to just appeal to the programmers and builders because there's a creative aspect as well.
It's important to us to teach more than just building and programming in our robotics camp because you need to do presentations, fundraising, and outreach.
It started with a grand plan. The Golden Gears put together a very ambitious camp schedule to include many topics.
When we first started planning our camp, we came up with so many ideas that our coaches didn't think it was feasible to do all those things in a week's time.
Boy, the kids on the team really came up with a lot of ideas to get the schedule for the camp going, and at first it was all over the place, but they were all great ideas. It was just a matter of putting them all in order to make sure that the camp was successful.
But the team was particularly insistent, and we picked a robot that was feasible to build, a small canine robot, created a smaller scale robot game, put together the content for all the presentations and the schedule, and ideas for team building and other exercises. Then we enlisted the help from a couple of team members from their sister team, No Limits, who were moving to the high school FRC team, as well as some other adult mentors to help.
When best laid plans go awry, some things did not go as planned. That first week of camp was a lot more work than any of us anticipated.
We often had to change the schedule when things went wrong, and that happened a lot.
Something I didn't expect was for all four of the robots to suddenly stop working and refuse to work for quite some time.
Many things went wrong, but one that sticks to mind is that we got locked out of our shop and couldn't use our real field, so we had to build it out of lumber and dollar store parts, which was fine because that taught teams that you can do a field out of any material.
My primary concerns about the camp, oh my goodness, 20 middle schoolers, and we're going to be responsible for it, but with the help of the kids, it turned out just terrific.
We learned from failure. So remember, when you host a camp or workshop or practice for the first time, it may not go as planned. Things will go wrong. You may have to adapt and make the best of the situation. But if the kids learn something, and everyone learns from failure how to do it better the next time, it is always a success. The next year, the Golden Gears put together a more realistic schedule. They included more of our sister teams in the planning and implementation of the camp. They had the teams build a full-scale pushbot instead of the smaller K9 robot that they built the year before. And they had all the sessions except tool safety taught by 8th and 9th graders. And all the robots competed in 10 scrimmage matches and 4 robot game matches. The camp teams had names, logos, gave impressive presentations, and understood strategy, outreach, and documenting things in an engineering notebook and the importance of team building. So it gets easier with experience. Here are some tips from our experience. Be prepared. You will likely have to adjust your schedule on the fly, especially the first time you do this. Things will take more or less time than you anticipated. People may not show. You may have technical difficulties beyond your control. You will probably not follow whatever schedule you initially planned to the letter. If you need to stall for time, I highly recommend all your counselors be prepared to answer the question of the day that you give them beforehand. They can share their experiences while you fix the crisis at hand to get back on track. An example would be like your favorite competition memory. Team building activities are also good for these situations.
For the second year, we made our team buildings choice flexible, so we could do inside games, outside games, games with a lot of preparation, games with little preparation, whatever we needed.
Be observant. Adult and student mentors need to resist the temptation to build or fix camper robots. The robot needs to be built entirely by the campers, and they should take turns doing each step. Some of them may have never used hand tools before and will be slow to gain that skill, while some may be a whiz and do it quicker than others. If you have several groups working on several robots, you may have to keep an eye on their progress and supplement the groups that go faster with additional learning activities, so all the teams can progress on build and programming at a relatively same rate. You can pull them aside
to help them practice their presentation, have them make logos, or learning more in-depth things about other topics.
So it wasn't very possible to teach all of programming in just a week. So what we did is we made a skeleton program for the campers to edit according to their needs. And if you're going to be teaching blocks, I would suggest having a skeleton program for autonomous and have the campers figure out and problem solve teleop on their own.
Be flexible about programming. Programming can be an exception to the campers only rule that can be made for a week-long camp or short programming workshop. You're not going to learn how to code a robot in 1 week or even 1 day. We found since Java was such a complex language, it was better to teach the basic concepts and have blocks of code available for basic functions for campers to cut and paste that had incorrect variables. The challenge for the campers was then to put the blocks of code in the correct order and fix the variables to drive. They could also develop their own code for adapted attachments. This is feasible for a week-long camp. However, with the new blocks format and other GUI formats now or becoming available in the future, it's entirely possible in the future that a completely novice camper or workshop participant could program a pushbot on their own in a week or maybe even a day. In a season, you want the students to do all the programming for their team's robot. If you're using these methods for a teaching tool, you'll need to ensure that they are producing all the code on their own for the actual robot. Give opportunities to shine. Camps and workshops are also excellent opportunities to gain public speaking skills and learn how an FTC presentation works at competition. We give our camp teams a 5-minute time limit, plus an additional 5 minutes for Q&A. We want them to share what they've learned and explain their robot. We want all kids to participate in speaking. We give them a short list of topics to address in their presentation. We give their presentation in a separate room with a panel of judges, just like in competition. We have veteran coaches judge the presentations and write down feedback, although honestly, anyone can judge in a pinch. The judges ask questions and have the list of example questions from competitions to use if they want. Be persistent. Camps and workshops are also excellent opportunities to work on engineering notebook skill practices. Every day, you should have the campers write reflections of their experience of the camp, what was their favorite, what worked well, and what they think should be done differently next time. You should also have your counselors do the same thing each day. You should have your participants document their progress. Keep their notes and drawings. Write lists of tasks they accomplished, successes and failures, and take lots of pictures. Keep all these items they work on each day and have one of the counselors put it in a binder. If you have time, have some of the students organize the binders themselves. Then, your campers can see how an engineering notebook can be created throughout a season.
What really worked better than I thought was the competition that we had on the afternoon of the last day. One of the kids even had the national anthem queued up that played before the match. We invited the parents there. We weren't expecting the kids to experience so acutely the agony of defeat and the ecstasy of victory. The robots were failing. They were rushing off the field to get them repaired in time for the next match. They truly experienced what a FIRST robotics competition is all about.
The biggest surprise was that we learned and grew a lot from hosting our own FTC camp. It was truly a game changer for everyone that participated. But perhaps the greatest impact was on the Bloomfield Hills Robotics FTC program, specifically the 7, now 8 FTC teams across 3 middle schools. What they didn't anticipate was that summer, after all 6 teams had campers at the camp, for the first time, all 7 teams worked together in a cooperative environment to help each other be the best team they could be that entire season. Prior to that, it was every team for themselves. They shared mentors, they shared strategies, they shared parts, as well as a shop building, and they planned these large-scale STEM outreach events together like you see in this picture.
This not only benefited the campers, it benefited the veteran robotics kids, but in a big way, it benefited the Bloomfield Hills School District robotics program. because the 20 kids that were on the camp ended up on different teams, and we had the experienced robot kids from different teams, and we had adult mentors from different teams, it really developed a culture of cooperation, or should I say cooperation, that we didn't have to that degree prior to putting on the camp.
Both years that we held the camp, we had 7 teams from our district advance to states.
One of the things I'm most proud of is that the first team I mentored in the FTC camp that first year is now competing at this very world's competition in Detroit.
All 6 of our sister teams advanced to states that year for the first time, and the Golden Gears were able to buy a new field for all the teams to share and update all 7 teams' electrical components, and we had money left over. The next year, we also had 7 teams advance, and 1 advanced to Worlds. Hosting a camp definitely had an impact on our team and our district's robotics program. We can't wait to hear what benefits you gain from hosting your own camp or workshop. Okay, let's get started. Our camp logistics. We put campers in groups of 4 or 5, and they are the camp team for that week. We typically have 4 or 5 teams in a week-long camp. Each team gets a full robot kit with phones and controllers and an instruction manual to build that pushbot or K9 robot. We assign 1 veteran FTC member as a counselor to guide them the whole week. Then we also have an additional 2 student programming mentors and 2 additional student build mentors to help the teams, since there are 4 or 5 teams. Then we have 2 adult members available at all time per FIRST guidelines. So how many people does it take? The Golden Gears ran this camp with 2 adult mentors present at all times for about 18 to 20 middle school campers and 7 to 10 student mentors. This is a truly student-run camp. The adults were just there to keep everyone on schedule, on task, and be safe. They rarely had to contribute to the actual teaching of content, although sometimes they did just to share their experiences. But this is easily scaled up or down for other camp formats. We have all the subject content and resources to do whatever camp, workshop, practice you want to do. You just need 2 adults there at all times and at least 1.5 student mentors for every 5 campers or participants.
When dealing with kids of different skill levels and different ages, it's really hard to gauge sometimes how much to do for them and how much to let them do. I think what I gained as a veteran coach is a greater appreciation for letting the kids just run with it. There's a tendency to want to do things for them, but this was a real good opportunity to cut them loose and see what they could do, and I think they surprised all of us with what they were able to accomplish.
This is the schedule we ran for the second year of camp. As you can see, it's color-coded. Yellow are information sessions, orange are team building sessions, blue are build sessions, the green is scrimmages, and the red is giving presentations to judges and the actual robot game. Oh my God, are you serious? Just look at that schedule. How are we ever going to do all that? Well, breathe. It's going to be fine. You don't have to do all these topics. You don't have to do this particular schedule. You can scale this to what you think is reasonable for the kids running the camp, the number and skill level of the kids that will be participating as campers, the parts and tools you have, and the time available. You don't have to do this exactly. Breathe. It's going to be fine. We have all the content and presentations for all these topics available to you online. You can use this content and the presentations directly to teach your team members and campers. No additional research is required unless you just want to do it or if you need to update things to reflect new requirements or new technology available from FIRST. Breathe, it's gonna be fine. There are beginner-level presentations timed at about 15 minutes of content to follow up with some learning activities. These presentations were developed by 8th and 9th grade FTC veterans, so any veteran should be able to present this. Breathe, it's gonna be fine. There are also longer, more in-depth presentations available for practices, focused workshops, or more advanced students. Many of these presentations were developed by adult mentors, but they can still easily be presented by middle and high school kids. don't be intimidated by our example. At our camp, a counselor is selected from a pool of veterans from several teams for their expertise. So we're lucky we can go in depth and cover more topics than a school with just one team. In our district, most of the FTC rookies actually move up from FLL, so our campers already have a background in FIRST robotics. We wouldn't do this particular schedule I listed here before for a camp of complete robotics novices. The point is you have all the content and resources to do whatever camp or workshop or practice you want to do. So at our camp, the veteran students, in their role as camp counselors, run the majority of the presentations and provide the majority of the mentoring the students get whenever possible. It is as much a learning experience for the counselors as it is for the campers that attend the camp.
As a camp counselor, I got to transition from being a team member to a team mentor.
What did you learn that you wouldn't have learned in a regular season?
Well, one thing I learned from the FTC camp that I wouldn't learn in a whole season was leadership skills, because in this environment I was forced to be able to use leadership to help the children learn, and also to kind of direct the camp in general, keeping it organized. So that helped me with that.
This is also an excellent learning opportunity for rookie coaches to learn what they need for a successful season. We always invite rookie coaches to attend our camp and help supervise. Without coaches, there are no teams.
I wish when I first started robotics, I had the opportunity to attend a camp as a rookie coach. The camp really condensed a whole season of robotics from game kickoff through the matches into 1 week with judging and engineering notebook. So for a rookie coach, it really gives them a good overview of what the whole season involves.
One of the advantages of being a coach and hosting a camp is trying to, or understanding how different kids that are not a part of your team work. So it allows you to get better at teaching kids different techniques that are new to the program.
So how do you get parts for camp? Borrowing from existing team part inventory can be an option for some, but not most teams. The Golden Gears were able to borrow 4 partial robot kits from FIRST in Michigan. But as there are over 400 FTC teams in Michigan, that's not enough for everyone to share even year-round. Many other state FTC programs do not have any robot kits, partial or full, to loan out at all.
What's nice about using camp kits instead of your competition kits is that you're preserving your motors, your regular motors and parts, and they're not getting all lost. So the camp kits provide an ability to use the kits that are just designed for the camp without disrupting what the teams normally use for their season.
This is why you really need parts. For FTC camps and workshops to be sustainable over time, ideally there needs to be a separate inventory and tools from the team's competition robot. But once that inventory is obtained, a team's camp or workshop efforts can largely sustain itself indefinitely through revenues gained from paid camps and workshops. It could even potentially fund a whole team or an entire district's robotics program. So how much does it cost? Running a week-long, full-day FTC camp for 18 to 20 campers realistically costs about $5,000 in parts and tools and initial investment. This includes 4 full robot kits and hand tools to allow 4 to 5 teams to work on robots at the same time. But the Golden Gears typically earns at least this amount in 1 week for 18 kids. The cost for a single robot kit with motors and servos, electrical components, phones, and controllers is about $1,000.
One of the things I did not expect was after that first camp, I did not expect to be talking to so many people to get support for our FTC camp.
So I'm sure what you want to know is, how do I get parts for my camp? If you have limited parts inventory on hand and or limited team members and mentors to help, consider hosting small focused workshops for a small fee to fundraise for parts for a larger workshop or camp later. Build on that success to apply for sponsorships and grants for parts for a larger workshop or camp.
Explore all options in your state, your county, your city, and your school district to get parts or to get sponsors and grants to fund parts, even if you're not ready to host yet or think you have enough parts on hand. We can help with soliciting funds. In the online resources we are providing, there is a presentation you can use for potential sponsors and some convincing text we used in getting a local grant. Help get funding for all. We're hoping today that our experience in this presentation will inspire some corporate sponsorships and grants to purchase the parts and tools needed for more FTC teams to host camps and workshops. It's also our dream that this is the catalyst to find a corporate sponsor to fund a major effort to offer summer camp workshops like these for free in downtown neighborhoods here in Detroit, as well as in Houston, who hosted World's competition last week. The more teams that can successfully host these workshops, the better chance we have to make this lasting difference to change the world happen. Help! What if I don't have enough adult mentors? Well, then you do whatever you can do with 2 adults there, as required by FIRST. The adults there don't have to be subject experts at all. They just keep the kids on track and make sure they're being safe, responsible, and respectful. I have run this camp for 2 years. I am not an engineer, I'm not a programmer, and I'm not a tool expert. Anybody can do this. What if I don't have a lot of student mentors? So maybe you have all rookies this year. There's a world of mentors out there waiting to be tapped. Contact your local robotics teams first. There are literally thousands of teams on social media that can also live chat video and to help you out. And any team should be delighted to add to their outreach efforts for their team to help you. Be open to mentors that don't have FIRST experience. Have a hardware store employee be your tool expert. Have a motivational speaker or salesperson talk about giving effective presentations. Have a documentation expert talk about potential strategies for your engineering notebook. So, in summary, first, figure out how many veteran kids you have to run the camp or workshop, how many adult mentors can supervise, and what time everyone has to be available to do it. Second, figure out then the maximum kids you'll be able to take, what their skill level is likely to be, and what is feasible to teach them in the time available. Then gather your tools and parts. Review our resources to plan your schedule and sessions with the parts, tools, and people that you have. Then, adults stand back and let the kids run the camp and share their knowledge and experience. Be sure to document everything and let us know how it went. Use that documentation to apply for funding and solicit sponsors to grow your program.